Hi there, in this video I'm going to go over some of the books that I've been using in signal processing. It's not scripted or anything, so I'm just going to flick through and see what I've got here and show you some of the stuff I think is quite good. Now, we start off with probably my favourite book, Transforms in Signals and Systems by Peter Kranauskas. I think that's how it's pronounced. Now, I got this, I think it was published 1991 or 92, so I got it 1993, I think I got it. I was in a library at James Stinn, the bookshop James Stinn up in Edinburgh at the time, and it was during my second year I think at uni, and I decided I had a look through some of the books and I found this, and as soon as I seen it I knew right away it was just the kind of thing I was looking for. So I have used this in the lot of videos you've seen so far, okay, and I'm going to be continually using it whenever I go over the stuff in Laplace and Z transforms. So you can see here, I'll show you some of the images in it. It's really quite beautiful, some of the approach that they've used. So here's for example here, you can see this one here. We're looking at the inverse transform of this square wave, okay, so you can see the square wave in the frequency domain, and it's modulating a surface. Now it's the e to the I omega t, but it's a purely even function, so it doesn't affect the sine part of e to the I omega t. It only affects the cos, okay, which is the even part. So we've really got a cos omega t surface here, and this is modulating that cos omega t surface, and then what we're doing is we're integrating with respect to frequency, so we're integrating in this direction, okay, so we're adding up all the areas under the curve in this direction, and we're getting the sinc function in the time domain, okay, so you can see that quite clearly. It's quite nice, and you can see here as well on this page here we've got an impulse function. Of course that's an approximation to the impulse function, but the impulse function again it's modulating the cos omega t surface because it's a real even function. And whenever it's modulated that surface, of course, there's nothing here and there's nothing there. It only exists in the centre, so you're only going to get the central part, which is the cos of the value there, okay, which is going to give us your just a square section. So when you integrate in this direction here, you're just going to get the square section here, okay. So it shows you quite clearly how that works. Again, another one here, delayed impulse, and again I've got that in one of my videos. The impulse in time domain is delayed slightly, and it has the effect of, originally that would have been a straight line, just a value of 1, but now all the phasors have started rotating, okay, so it's added linear phase onto this function here, and you can see this corkscrewing effect, okay. The same thing works through all of the symmetries here as well. I'll try and find another couple of images here. There's an example there of a function that it's neither even or odd. It's got both even and odd components. So the e to the I omega t surface will be split into a cos omega t surface and a sine omega t surface. So there'll be a real part and an imaginary part. So this modulates the surface, and you can see it modulating the surface there. There's nothing here in the negative time, so there's nothing on the surface, and the surface gets modulated at this end here, and when we integrate with respect to time, you get your sinc function, which is a purely real even function, and the same again occurs in the sine omega t surface, and we modulate with respect to, we integrate with respect to time, and we get the imaginary part of the Fourier transform. So what happens is we have to sum these, okay, and when we sum these up we get the final value here, which is this sinc function, but it's obviously a raised sinc function because we're looking at the magnitude here, okay, and so you get a magnitude and a phase. So if you were to draw these out as 3 dimensions, again you would see some rotating shape here, okay, which would just be, it would just get tighter and tighter, and then it would tighten tighter again. But these pictures here, they're really well put together, and it does the same thing as well with the Laplace transform. So it goes through a same graphical representation of the Laplace transform, and it's very similar, but it's just been modulated. I mean, look at these images here, they're fantastic. And there's an image there of the phasors, okay, the decaying phasors you get in Laplace transforms. But there's an example of a Laplace transform there. So he's actually doing a Laplace transform of, you can get this image in here, can you get it right? Let's see, is it this one we're looking at here? Yep, oh there we go. Strange actually looking at this way. So there's a Laplace transform of this function here, and when you work through the Laplace transform you get this function here. Okay, so it's done purely graphically, and we're taking the function and we're modulating it, okay, by a decaying exponential, and this decaying exponential modulates the cos and the sine omega t surfaces here, okay, and these give us the real and imaginary parts of the answer, okay, and then a snippet of the surface is shown here, okay, so that would give us some summation of these two here, the real and imaginary parts, okay, so you could find the magnitude of that one point there, okay, so it only shows one part of the surface, but you would do that over the entire surface and you would generate an entire surface. So excellent images. Now there's one in particular here, if I can shuffle through and see if I can find it, just bear with me here. Again, hopefully I can maybe get through once I finish this video and see. Oh, there we go. So there we have just a nice kind of representation. It gives you a feeling for the connection between the different forms of the transforms. So you can see up here we've got they've just drawn it out in terms of a cos omega t surface. So we have a surface here, okay, and it's continuous in time and frequency, okay, so this would be equivalent to giving us our Fourier transform, okay, because the frequency and time are both continuous. And down here we would have our time domain would be discrete, okay, so we would have in effect a discrete time Fourier transform, okay, and of course you could cut the surface in the other direction, in which case you would have a discrete frequency Fourier transform, which in effect would be a Fourier series. And if you were to cut the surface in both directions, then you would have a discrete time and frequency surface. So we'd be using that in order to generate a fast Fourier transform. Okay, so great book, and if you're interested in signals and systems and the maths behind the signals and systems, and you want a good introduction to it, you know, because it does tend to be quite mathsy, then I would highly recommend that. Really good book. Another little book I got years ago is an introduction. Fourier series by, this is N.W. Gower and G.E. Baker. Another nice little book. It just goes over the Fourier series, and it describes it in terms of vector space. Okay, and this was the first time I actually seen the transforms described really the way that they should be described, which is in terms of orthonormal vector spaces. Okay, so again, a nice little book, a nice little introductory lead-in, and it's got a few nice case studies, things in the back, couple of chapters. Okay, so definitely another one I would recommend. Now, if you're looking for some examples, now this is really just covering Laplace transforms, but it's the Stroud book on Laplace transforms, and if you're looking to mug up for exams, then I mean this is perfect. So it just goes through hundreds of examples, and it works through them, and it slowly it takes out parts of the lines, and you have to start filling it in. Okay, so really good book. I've gone through this a few times actually. It's a strange one though, because it's kind of like I don't know, it's kind of like eating a McDonald's. You know, an hour later you're hungry again, and you can't remember having eaten it. So it's a bit like that. So if once I worked through it, a couple of weeks later I tend to have forgotten a lot of it, okay, but it's still worthwhile, and it's still a good introductory book for examples. What else do I tend to have a look at now and again? There's let's see, where is this other one? I brought a couple up with me there. Well, this here, the Kuehl network analysis and synthesis is a bit of a classic, that. It's got a good introduction as well on the Fourier transforms. Okay, so it's a nice stuff in Laplace as well, and differential equations, and there are a lot of practical uses of this. Okay, so that's a good book. I haven't worked through cover to cover, but I have gone through and flicked through and used sections here and now and again. Okay, so it's a decent book. There's also the Schwamm's books, these here with examples. Now that's an excellent one, digital signal processing. I've gone through that pretty much cover to cover. Okay, and I would recommend that if you want to just get stuck straight in, and you don't need to bother looking at all of the derivation of where everything came from. You can just jump straight in and get started on the example. So that's a good one, I recommend that. There's also signals and systems one. Okay, I use that now and again as well. I've not worked through all the examples, but I've maybe went through a third of them. So that's another excellent one. And actually, there's a few here. What I tend to do is at Christmas I just give my family a suggested books, and then they could just go out and buy me the books for Christmas. So I've ended up collecting a few books which I haven't actually worked through, but I will in time. Okay, so there's another one, the Analog and Digital Communications. Again, these aren't like book reviews, okay, because this one here I've only really flicked through it, but it's just finding the time supposed to work through the examples. But I intend to be working through this sometime this year. Okay, now there are a few other classic books there that I've got, and again I tend to use them for reference. There's this one here, the Proakis and Manolakis, this one here, yeah. So again, it's a reference book, and I flick through it and I pick up some stuff from the reference. I prefer this one here to the Oppenheim and Schaefer, and it's a bit kind of like almost a bit silly, because I like the typescript in this. Okay, I just feel it's easier to read than this other one. Okay, of course it's not book reviews. You don't decide to buy or not buy it just because I don't like the typescript. Let's see, so there's another one here that I have, but you know, to be honest, I'm not ready for it yet, and I'm still working through wee bits I've worked through now and again, mathematical methods. It's quite advanced, and it's going to take, you know, it looks more like a kind of reference book, and again, it's kind of sat on that shelf there for a couple of years, and it's hardly get taken down. So in time, you know, I hope to be working through some of that. Now I do have a DSP kit as well there, which I've had up and running, and it worked quite well. And it's the C6713, the DSP starter kit. So I've worked through some of that as well, but again, I have noted that there's a few more videos online describing that, so I'm going to start back and see if I can make another start at that, because I can't remember, I started at it and either I ran out of time, or I didn't think I had enough kind of knowledge to work with it properly, and plus, to be honest with you, I tend to concentrate on the maths. It's really the maths that interests me, as opposed to the practicalities of it. But you know, I need to start working through. So I actually have up here in this digital spectrum, I've got it in this box up here, and I have had it up, and I've went through a few examples with it. There is another book, Communications Theory, which seems to be, oh, there's there. That there as well. I had that book for 15 years, 20 years, and I hardly touched it. But now, if you check the first few chapters out, second chapter, it's got it's got a good kind of mathsy introduction to the Fourier series and the Fourier transform. Okay, again describing in terms of vector spaces. So that's another excellent book actually. But I've tended to go over the sections that have appealed to me, and so that's about it for the signal processing. If you're looking for a nice book on introductory book on communications theory, here's one. This one here, the Pearson. I think it's an older book. I don't know whether it's still in print, but again, that's got a good introduction in Fourier series and Fourier transform, and also different modulation techniques. So what I was intending doing with this one actually was I was going to go through it and actually build up some of the circuits using a software tool online, and doing a little playlist there of AM, FM modulators, and just designing them. So it's just simple stuff. So I was going to get that done, but again, there's time constraints. So that's pretty much it for the books I have in signals and systems and transforms. Now we're 25 videos into the playlist, so there'll be another 20 or so videos on Laplace transforms, and then on we'll move on to Z transforms. But what I'll do is I'll start interspersing the videos with practical examples. You know, it's always been my downfall that I've not spent enough time actually doing examples, because really the theory interests me, and the practicalities of doing examples. It tends to be like, you know, if once you learn how to multiply and divide, you only do it a few times and then you're bored with it, and you don't need to keep multiplying and dividing lots of big numbers in order to, you know, it just gets boring. And I tend to find that as well with these kind of things. I like the theory, I like see how the things are derived and where they come from, but the practicalities, I tend to be a bit lazy, probably why I never do that well in exams. But we will work through, and I'll get examples in, because doing these videos, it helps me to make sure I get my bum in gear and get some examples done. Okay, so hope you like this video. I'm starting to rattle on a bit now. Okay, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.